How you been since we talked on Wednesday? It's been a couple days.
A little bit better.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah,
What?
easier to get through the situations. Like having the insecurity kind of feelings come up and being able to knock them down quicker. And except for last night, I was really, really tired, and the baby wouldn't go to bed, so I turned into like a 5-year-old and was pouting around, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what am I doing?"
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized I was being a little bit dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I could see it then. So like, what for me all night long? So yeah.
Well, was there anything that helped with our last conversation?
Yeah, I know we had a bunch of sessions before, but for some reason now I can see better the part about how the systems and the what do you call it?
Like body image, what you're told the
Yeah,
body should be.
yeah, that is not reality. Like it's some program that's made up that's not what true value of a person is. So it makes it easier for me to see that.
Right. Well, think of it, and this is very similar to foot binding in China. Okay.
Yeah,
Those girls were born and their feet were bound by their parents because it was believed that the smallness of a girl's foot equates to her value.
right.
So if her foot was 3 inches, that was like you are the best. So they
Yeah,
compared her foot size. And if your foot was smaller, you were promoted, you were praised.
yeah,
Even though the family next door did the same foot binding and her foot was 5 inches, she was demoted, seen as inferior, seen as less meritable, an embarrassment to the
gosh.
family.
Yeah,
This was passed down generation after generation for about 1,000 years.
yeah,
You don't have to believe it,
yeah,
but you do live in a culture that does. So you can
right.
either feel bad about it and be like, oh, they don't like my foot size. Or you can go, okay, I'm going to be alone and I'd rather than to be completely psychologically
Gosh, yeah,
messed up and have to take my life and devote it to obsessing over what I should and shouldn't be eating and the shame around that. If you
yeah,
believe it, if you internalize thinner, smaller feet are what makes me valuable. Well, when your feet are too big or they're, water and fluid retentive because you're damaging them, how are you going to feel about yourself?
right.
I'm a bad
Yeah,
person. Oh my God. They'd be doing the same version of you micromanaging your body in a mirror. They would look at their feet and they'd have feelings of horror and sadness and badness and embarrassment. And I'm not leaving and no one can see my feet.
jeez, yeah. And see, it seems so odd, when you look at it like that, because your foot is like you're born with that foot. You can't like
You're born with this
you
body
don't.
fat and the
Yeah,
mechanisms that create
yeah,
body
right.
fat. You're born with that. So they would have been
Yeah,
totally fine with fat people. They just had to have tiny feet.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. That helps me because I can see how insane that is, and it's absolutely the same
It is the same.
as
It's a body
the diet
image.
industry.
There's been so many, body image is an easy way to judge the value of a person without having to get to know them.
Yeah,
That's all it is. It's like the superficial, like getting to know someone without having to spend the time. So
yeah.
it's like a lazy way to value someone is by how they dress, the car they're driving. It's instinctive. I mean, this is part of our nature around being safe with people. So, this is the hardest part of the evolutionary mismatch, if you want to call it that, is we are wired as tribal people. We get to know our family and the other pack animals in a pack, part of our 20 to 30 animal group, right? Because that's how we evolved in packs of 30-ish people, 30 to 40. We all dress the same. We're all doing the same clothes. And it becomes like an easy way for us to know we're safe with each other. Well, imagine someone from some other tribe, family, pack comes and they have a different look, how you're going to feel in that moment.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about them. Are they safe people?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? They're not safe. Do you remember when you first started, like when I was a kid, watching shows about Indians and how scary they were in there?
Yeah.
I know it's very racist. I was raised in the 70s and 80s, and it was super racist.
Same.
And it was always scary, because they look different. Well, how do you think they felt with each other in their tribes?
Right.
Totally comfortable.
Safe.
It was a sign of safety.
When they saw us coming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
These people with their weird clothing and their metal armor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Right? So are we any different than that? No. So when you're raised and you hear, oh, fat people are bad, that means you're lazy, you're unhealthy. That's unhealthy. You're going to die.
Yeah.
You can see how as a child that would be natural to be like, okay, yeah, I want to be thin. And not only that, but my thin sister's getting all this attention.
Yep.
Or people like me when I'm thinner. I'm getting more attention, just like the girls with the small feet got more attention. It's the symbolism. Well, I just think small feet are sexier. I'm sure you do. Is it really sexier, or is it the symbolism of sexiness attached to that?
Wow. Yeah.
Wow,
that's huge, Robin.
Well, yeah, because I guarantee you, if we lived at that time, men would think smaller feet are sexier. They could get a boner on a small foot.
Oh my gosh.
How much of that is like true, and how much of that is conditioned?
If our guys these days weren't seeing loads of pornography or
correct
thin models on TV, then they would have that same idea.
Conditioning. Yeah, thinner women are. So there's a mechanism that says, oh, they're safer, they're smarter, my parents will love them more. Yes, you're right, the conditioning aspect. So should we judge that? Should we judge that aspect of our brain that does that without us knowing it?
No. Wow.
Right? You don't know you're being brainwashed. Our brains are meant to be washed. Wow. Right? Our brains do that for our own protection. It's like, I want to blend in. We're so like the lizards that change color. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Right? So let's not judge it. But let's be aware that that's your problem, though, is that you believe that this is defining your worth. There's a difference between someone who blends in but doesn't define their worth internally by it. And the willingness to say, I don't want to harm myself just so that that person gets a hard on. I'd rather be alone with my natural size foot.
Yeah.
I'd rather go find a different group of people who will not judge me for my foot size. Or they don't care. Or I'm going to pick and choose what I'm willing to adapt to. But I'll never lose touch with my real self. So if I'm raised in some religious ideology, I can adapt to that because my brain's capable of that, but I'm not going to lose touch with the truth. I'm not going to make anti-other religions,
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, so start with your body. Are you willing to literally hurt yourself so that someone else approves of the body you're in, the one you're in?
No.
It's not their body.
Yeah.
Whose body are you trying to fix your body for? Who are you trying to fix your weight for? You?
No.
Or your brainwashing, right? Because a lot of people, it's like, I want to lose weight for me. Well, actually, what you don't realize is this is your body image that you're trying to accommodate your body to. It's the one that you've been brainwashed to believe, and you believe it because you're completely unaware you've been brainwashed. You have no idea that you're basically believe your worth as a human being is based on the smallness of your foot.
Yeah.
Or the leanness of your body. Currently, and it's like you're foot binding, but it's called body binding.
Right.
And you're doing it through starvation. It's like an invisible way to starve and make your body smaller. But the problem is your brain and evolution has been wired to want and need to feel safe with food because it's required to stay alive. So at least with foot binding, it wasn't required to stay alive. You could lose your feet. You could chop your feet off and stay alive your whole life as long as you have assistance. You will not survive without food, period.
Right.
So this creates a whole nother slew of mental illness because of the food aspect of our nature and life and death, really. It is life and death. Food is life and death. That's why your issues with food are so magnified. That's why you're binging.
Yeah.
If you didn't believe in binding the body to be thin, small, thin supremacy, if you want to call it body binding, if you didn't believe in that, would you still have the same issues with food?
Oh, no.
Are you just saying that?
No, I know it's a fact.
Right? So what if your body is meant to be obese, which goes against the thin supremacy of the culture you live in? You okay that people think you're sucky? Just like the women who didn't bind their feet. The parents were like, fuck that, I'm not doing that with my child. Well, guess what? She didn't have a lot of people coming to marry her.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I feel like anxious right now.
Good. Well, I'm trying to get you to look at it. But no, Robin, I want to have small feet.
Golly.
No, I just want someone. I need small feet, Robin. Okay, well then you need to be okay with what's going on. Yeah. At least be consciously aware of what's going on versus unconsciously feeling horrible about yourself. At least be conscious that you're choosing that.
Yeah.
It's better off. It's better,
Yeah. Yeah. Then that kind of relieves some of the anxiety.
Yeah, and the seriousness. So it releases some of the seriousness, but at least you're not willing to starve yourself. What it'll do is it removes the seriousness with the dieting. You're still going to bind your feet if you want to call it that, but you're not going to bind them so hard.
Oh, gosh.
Right? And at least with your kids, you might not bind theirs as hard either.
Yeah.
You're still going to bind them.
Yeah. My 4-year-old told me the other day he had a tummy ache because he ate an extra piece of toast when he was already full. I'm like, how does the 4-year-old already do that?
Well, he's mimicking you. He wants to be like, and he might want you to feel like, I'm with you. I'm doing it with you,
Oh, my baby. Yeah.
Co-victimization.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like rejecting themselves so that you don't feel alone while you reject yourself.
Oh my gosh. That's awful.
Well, it's sweet and kind. It's like pack animal stuff. It's like,
yeah.
I will leave the pack when you get shunned, I'm going to leave with you.
Oh, my babies.
Yeah, it's super sweet.
Yeah. I just don't want him to do that. I don't want him to have to do that.
Well, how are you going to get him, if you're not willing to do it, how are you going to know how someone's got to have the will not to do it? How do you teach your child how not to do it, even though other people around him are going to be judging him for not doing it?
Yeah, just by being okay in it myself and not.
Yeah, and knowing how to verbalize that. You're not going to be able to verbalize that until you do it. So you're like, you know what, I tried, and all it did was make my relationship with food crazy, because you have to eat, and you're wired to, there's these mechanisms that magnify the need for food when food is being removed. You can't take that out. It's like the mechanism that magnifies the need to have sex when you think you're never going to have sex again.
Yeah. That's really huge too, because then it takes away the part of me feeling like I'm broken.
Yes.
You know?
You're human. Exactly. I love that. It's like, why shame something that's so human? It's like shaming my dog for smelling his butt and everybody else's butt.
Right. Yeah. Or accidentally on the floor when I forgot to put him out too. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You're terrible for defecating in your own home, even though there was no place to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Can you shut the door? My husband works from home now.
Oh, so both of you. That must be a growing experience there. Yeah.
Well, we've been married 21 years. We get along a ton. It's just he's on the phone working, and I could hear his conversation from here.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, really think about what you're shaming yourself over. Like, you're shaming yourself over a generational body image belief system.
Yep, exactly.
You know, and you can forgive it. right? That's the other part. Let's forgive it. This is a mechanism in place for people who don't feel safe. And it's a superficial way to connect with people. If you're feeling vulnerable or like, I can't, like I'm scared of people, a people to people fear versus a people to bear fear, right?
Yeah.
If you have people to people fear, it would make sense that you would want to gravitate to people that superficially look safe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So people who are that way don't feel safe with you.
Yeah. So then that's why I always feel kind of rejected or like.
You got to be okay that other people are super insecure with other people.
Yeah.
And if they're not really secure and don't feel good, they're not going to navigate the world. They're not going to leave their little culture. They're not. And so because you're not thin and obsessed with eating like them, they're going to think you're lazy, or they're going to think whatever they think about you. You got to be okay with that. You know, you're more capable, you could say, of living in different tribes.
Yeah.
Right? You're not as fearful of the way someone looks. You're less, that's called fight or flight. You're less survival mode. Someone in heightened survival mode because they're afraid of other people are going to demand you meet a superficial criteria.
Yeah.
Period. Because it's like placating to their fear.
Wow. Yep.
Someone who is not afraid within themselves and is not afraid to be judged or that they're not as people fearful, right? They're going to be more open-minded to someone who looks different, thinks different. They're anthropologists, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
What do you think I'm trying to get you to do?
To be okay with that?
Well, you got to be good with yourself.
Yeah.
And you got to be good at the same time. It's not one or the other. It's both. You got to be okay that someone isn't good with you.
Yeah.
The problem is you're not good with you, which means you're even more so not good when someone isn't good with you.
Yeah.
So you start with, am I good with the truth of me? Even if I'm like, think of all the different tribes out there and how different people look, right? The truth of the body, what it is naturally. You got to be okay with it at this point. So the only way for you to do that is to stop dieting.
Yeah.
Or thinking you're going to go out of diet. Stop trying to fix your body is what it. If you stop trying to fix your body or manipulating your environment, what is the natural state of the body you're in? What is its nature? You got to start there.
Right.
And then even if it fits an ideal, do you really want to create a sense of worth based on that?
No.
Right. You kind of want to just.
Not authentic.
Yeah. It's like saying, well, I'm not in the thin group, but I'm in the big booty group. Do you really want to be defined by that?
No.
Right. Well, I'm not thin, but I want to be the smart group. Do you really want to be in the smart group?
No. Oh my God.
You see how it's the same thing?
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
There's so many different.
Why can't you
categories.
just be what it is? Like, what are you naturally? What's your nature? Can you be that and be good with yourself? If you can, do you see how you can be engaged in different groups, subcultures of this type of imagery? And it's not going to be internalized so quickly. Like you can go into religious ideology and you're not going to be brainwashed, period. You're not.
Yeah.
You can hear it, you can enjoy it. But as soon as they say, God doesn't like you if you're this way, you're going to go, okay.
Yeah.
You won't internalize it. Oh my God, God doesn't love me because I'm like, you won't.
I better try to do this.
Exactly.
Right.
Because if you're natural, aren't you the essence of what your God created?
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to change that. You can let it evolve naturally. So think of this as like your ability to just be your true self. Like, what if you're not a peacock? What if you're just a robin bird? What if you're just a blue jay? That's it.
Yeah.
You're a finch, honey. That's it. You're a finch.
Yeah.
So the peacocks are not going to. Exactly. What if you're just you're a crow. You're a crow, okay?
Yeah.
You're not a hawk. You're not an eagle. You're a crow. You're a scavenger. Whoop-de-doo.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. Right. Who cares?
Well, you have to get to a place where you're okay with that.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Should you have to pluck all your feathers out so you can paste on new different colored feathers so people will like you? I mean, that's torture.
Yeah.
That'd be like torturing. That's like you choosing to do it. I'm pulling out all my feathers.
Oh my gosh, horrible. And then it draws the wrong group. The group that's not meant for me anyway.
Well, it's just you're accommodating to something that requires you torture yourself.
Yeah.
So you only feel ashamed because you believe in foot binding. Your feet are too big. You believe that it means that you're a horrible person.
Yep.
Except for it's body binding. And keep in mind, again, the difference is when you restrict food, the natural response is to eat more food.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, because even just the idea that, in the morning if I tell myself, well, I'm going to have a few more vegetables today, and, my dad's diabetic, so I better try to cut back on sugar, and then immediately I'm like, give me all of it. or I go overboard with my meal, like I eat more than my body requires, and then it just goes back to that out of control feeling.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So so let's just start with, how are we going to reduce the binging, overeating, emotional eating?
By not letting my food be a threat to me anymore, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't need to diet or, have the thought of I need to do something different than what my body is asking me for.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's pretty simple. If you were to accept, now this is simple to me.
Yeah.
Over here. What if you could just what if you unwrapped the binding, okay, and let your feet just be what they are?
Yeah.
So what that means is removing all food restriction, period, forever. In order, just so I'm using that as the example, just so you can see the parallels. Don't you agree for a woman to unbind her feet voluntarily, it means she has to be okay with judgment, rejection, abandonment, ridicule, being looked down on? She has to be okay with that.
Yeah.
She can't unbind and then be like, don't make fun of me, and be a victim.
Yeah. And try to make people understand why they shouldn't, or because that's where I went last time.
Right?
Like people, like to people close to me.
Do you see how silly that sounds?
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Like you think you're gonna change all the propaganda, you're gonna change all the brainwashing just because you suffered with an eating disorder and you come out of the closet?
Yeah.
Like how many women are suffering with an eating disorder, don't even know it, and they think that it's their body that's the problem, not the thinner supremacy.
Right. Yep.
I mean, think of how many people are diagnosed with an eating disorder but not questioning the thinner supremacy.
Yeah.
Mental health industry isn't questioning thinner supremacy.
No.
Scientists are, the social scientists are, but not the therapists.
Yep.
They're all overjoyed when you're thinner.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you lost 20 pounds. I'm so proud of you.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I'm so proud.
That's what I've heard before. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, you know.
As your brain is inflaming and you're obsessing and you're withholding the fact that you were binging and now you're like they don't see all that. They don't care. Whatever it is, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Right? So you'd have to come out of this going, I don't care. It's too much for me. My feet are a size 10, okay?
Yeah.
They're not going to be a size 3. Not going to work. So if they reject me, I'm at least relieved from the pain and damage.
Yeah. Just to have it be over with. Just go ahead and I wish we could do like that thing where I just stand in a room in a bathing suit and have everybody just go ahead and do it and judge me.
Well, you could do that. You just do it today. You just go out in public.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna happen. You just decide, I'm done binding. Not gonna diet. So the dieting is the binding. The dieting is what's creating this kind of overcompensation with food as well. Right? It's like the swelling, let's just say, of the feet. And people are like, well, you're supposed to swell. You know, when you're literally breaking feet bones and you're gonna have fluid retention. You don't have an edema problem. Like, oh my God. Like, what's wrong? Your feet are swollen. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
When there's damaging, you know. Like, you got to see that the binging is the swelling, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So if you remove the bandages, what happens to the swelling? It will go away. Yeah, because you don't have to feel there's no bad and right and wrong anymore.
Yeah.
There's no shame and, oh, I did the wrong thing. I failed. I might as well. Right? That's the first aspect. You also have to recognize too, well, if I'm removing the bandages, if I overconsume because I feel sorry for myself in some area of life, like my life sucks, I want to eat, well, then would you still overeat if you know there's no bandaging to get rid of whatever is going to happen?
No.
Probably not. Yeah, so that whole balancing act around the access to food because you have some idea that it can get rid of anything you're doing. I don't know. There's no.
That totally makes sense. That just like broke open right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, because last night that was one of the things when I was having trouble with the baby. I was like, I'm gonna have a bowl of cereal, and then I thought about it. I'm like, really? Do you think this bowl of cereal is gonna help you? And then I went to bed, and then the baby woke up again, and I had a bowl of cereal.
Well, that's because you felt sorry for yourself. Like, I'm feeling bad. I had a baby, and babies need my time. Like, you got to get to where you stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like, should you feel sorry for yourself? So now you got to reconcile, like, why am I such a victim of something like I have a baby? You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's this kind of cascade layering effect that does have to happen. But once you do it, I had to do the same thing. I had to grieve the joy I got out of binging. It was fun.
Yeah.
The moment I planned it and I was like, fuck it. Oh, it was like a party. It was a rager.
Yeah.
And there is a momentary, but you're only getting that high because you're constrained.
Right.
If there's never constraint again, would it be so fun?
Not at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like when people they're in relationships where it's abusive. Well, but it also means that they get the love aspect of it. You know, that dysfunction between hate and love and hate and love and hate and love. It's like, well, wouldn't you rather have neutrality and so that you don't ever have the hate, the damage, you know, but you got to get rid of the enabler. You got to get rid of the guy that says, we'll make it better. We'll make it better. Well, what if there is no make it? What if this is the way it is? What if it's this damaging? This is the reality is it's damaging and there's no amount of fake love is really going to make it better. That's kind of like the battered wife that says, well, go to therapy. It's going to get better. The guy goes to therapy and he's saying everything that the person wants to hear. And he goes back into abuse, back into cheating, right? You're going to have to go through this over and over and over again. So if you choose to overeat, it's like saying, well, would you choose to overeat if there was never going to be a diet again?
No.
So you have to think of that in that moment. I'm going to eat this. I'm not hungry. Nothing's going to remove the damages. So if this hurts my body, I mean, so you see how you're like, I'm going to restrict sugar because of diabetes, but I'm going to have a bowl of cereal when I'm pissed off. Don't restrict that.
Insane.
Well, it's very diet. The dieting aspect is never questioned as the problem. You always think that's your rescuer. It's the good.
Yeah.
Dieting is a good thing. Well, is it really? Because not only is it being used now as an underlying reason why you're allowing overconsumption.
Yeah.
Right. So you're using it as an enabler to your victim positionality. Doesn't matter what positionality. It doesn't matter what it is. If you feel like a victim, it's super awesome to have food.
Yeah.
So that relationship is only there because I will remove food later. So I'm entitled to it now.
Right.
Because I'm going to because I don't want diabetes tomorrow. I'm going to restrict it tomorrow. But I'll have cereal now.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly how it worked last night, for sure.
So today you need to make sure you restrict it because you ate it yesterday. So do you see how that restriction is like, that's the binding. Get rid of the binding. Yeah. So if you get rid of that, it's like, well, then what happens today when you start to feel like poor me? Yeah. And there's no enabler there.
Feel it out instead of trying to cover it up.
Yeah. What if it feels good to punch the wall? And there's then, but someone comes in and cleans it all up every time. Oh my God, let's sweep this up. Let's put on new drywall. Let's respray. Okay. Well, then every time you punch a wall, someone cleans it up. Well, what happens if that person says, I'm done?
Yeah.
What's going to happen then? You're going to think twice. You might initially have the impulse, but then you're going to go, hold on, I'm not going to get it fixed. It's not worth it. Why do I feel so bad about why am I such a victim?
Yeah, then you have to really look at the real.
Well, I'm not going to punch the wall, but I'm going to take markers and I'm going to marker everything. Okay. What if no one's going to clean that up? Well, then I'm going to go and I'm going to defecate on the lawn. Well, no one's going to clean up your shit. Okay. So at some point, why are you such a spoiled brat? Why are you complaining about reality all the time? All the time. All you do is complain about reality. Maybe that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's the way you are, but you need to see.
No, it is.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, well, then. So maybe you need to look at all of this surface shit is just the surface.
Yeah.
Why am I such a miserable person that's complaining about life as it is all the time? What is it about life that I hate? And it is about you. What do you hate about you? There's always a projection coming from why do you hate yourself? That's your assignment. Write it down. I am to write a list of why I hate myself and why I hate the life I'm living. Because I'm here. Why do you hate it all? Yourself and life. Why? What's the point? What are you getting off? Why do you get off on it? You do get something out of hating everything.
Yeah.
I hate myself, I hate my clothes, I hate this, I hate that, I hate everything.
Kind of makes it so I can just check out of it and not have to.
No pressure?
Yeah, so then I'm just angry the whole time.
Because everything else sucks, not you. But it's really you that sucks inside. You're just trying to promote it. You're just trying to project it out on other things. Why do you hate yourself? To the point where you just can't be and just enjoy. All right, it's been 30 minutes.
Okay.
Do you feel like good right now? Feel like this is a good...
Yeah, I feel really anxious. Like I want to just break through this right here.
Awesome! So all you need to do, this is your assignment. Why do you hate life? And why are you projecting your self-hatred onto life? Because I don't think you hate life so much as you hate yourself. Why do you hate yourself? Why is your life not worthy of loving? And I guarantee it comes down to your body.